Hey, this is Scott Spears, and I'd like to welcome you to yet another edition of The Exchange here on WGH Talk. And it's kind of like a reunion here this week. We've got Matt Morgan along with us for the ride, and then two gentlemen who have been on the program before. I know I've never called you gentlemen before. I don't know what that...
Where are they?
Christmas must be coming.
Okay.
There we go. Two gentlemen finally. Who, well, that's why I never called you gentlemen. You're tearing up the set here, Glenn. We've got Glenn Coble, who was on this station for 3 years, hosting Progressive Life, I believe was the name of his show, and also did some shows with me during the week, and then did, I believe, just the Glenn Coble show on Thursdays or something like that. You needed the big money that was laying around here. Mike was here for about 3 years as well, I think. The Mike Wilson show on
2, 3, something like that.
It doesn't matter. Just go along with it, Mike. Okay. You're not.
I was here for 10 years.
It's come to an end.
I was here
we're
for
glad
10
to have you
years.
back. Mike did the show on Mondays following Glenda Sims on Mondays.
Yes, it was.
5 to 6.
Yes.
And had a lot of great shows. You brought President Harding to this station for the first time. Ulysses S. Grant. It was a very nice show. It
was a presidential show.
Was a public affairs program, I thought. Yeah.
I would have thought he would have stunk by then.
He did smell. He did smell. I wasn't in the studio that day. Thank God I was just listening.
I just went out and dug him up.
So, here we are, all reunionized here on this station. And Matt's here, who's here now. You host your little show. You might as well plug it. On Friday night, 10 p.m. until 11.
We don't think it's a little show.
What's the name of it? I never can get the name of it right. It does have a name.
It does. It's that time of the week.
That time of the week.
But what's the name?
Yeah, see? It needs work. It needs work. But anyway, we got a lot to talk about in the 2 hours we're going to be on tonight. And
I got to call my wife.
You got to call your wife and let her know. It's going to be 2 hours. But Glenn has got a big event coming up here on October the 18th. And since we talked to Glenn about this last time, there's been a few adjustments in the lineup. So we need to... Don't look so upset, Glenn. It's still a big event. Tell us what's happening and where it's happening at.
Well, have you ever? Well, I know you've put on events.
I've put on events.
It's mind blowing when you do that. Especially, I haven't done it in 6 years, so I was a little out of practice. But we're having a meeting on Friday night out at Tri Rivers Career Center,
October the 18th.
Yeah, Friday night, and we're going to right now. We have Leslie Verbis, we have Tammy Wilson, we have Craig Swartz. We're hoping that we're going to get Linda, why am I forgetting her last name? She's running for treasurer here.
Davis.
Yeah, thank you, Davis. Linda Davis.
Just let me know when you need me.
Yeah, thank you. We tried to get the young man who's running for Senate, Ahmad, I can't remember his last name. Anyway, but he couldn't make it. And we thought we had, well, we knew we had Mary Ellen, but Mary Ellen has had an accident, so we have to excuse her this time. But we're not excusing her for getting better quickly. But we're going to have it on Friday night at 6:30 out at Tri Rivers. You can come out. We'll have signs from everybody. I'm going to try and go pick up a bunch of Harris signs tomorrow. So we're going to have signs from all the different offices that you can put in your yard. And I know we've had a hard time getting the Harris signs, and hopefully I'll be able to pick up 10 or 20 of those tomorrow. We're going to invite everybody who wants to come. As a matter of fact, please come. That's why I haven't been sleeping the last 4 or 5 nights. That and my doctor's appointment have kept me awake a lot. Anyway, we're going to have that on Friday, and we hope you all come. You're all welcome. You can ask all the questions you want to. You'll meet everybody. They'll all do a little 5-minute speech, and we'll find out more about all the candidates that are running for office in the Democratic Party. They're all Democratic. We cordially invite Republicans, though.
You know, it starts at 6:30.
6:30.
6:30 at Tri Rivers. No admission.
No admission and no set time to close. So.
And you can ask the candidates anything.
Anything.
And the host is?
I'm sorry. Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mike Larson.
I'm here.
Mike Larson is a nationally known comedian, and Mike's coming up to be our MC and resident comedian. He's got a gig today. He's got our show on Friday. He's got a gig tomorrow, and he's got a gig on Saturday. So he's a busy young man. He's a very devout Democratic follower. So he used to work for Jackie Spears out in California, who was the congresswoman from that area. And so he is a very devout Democrat. So he's offered to come and do a little shtick with us.
Now, why have you not been sleeping well?
Well, because I'm afraid not enough people are going to come to the event.
Now, what's enough people?
Right now, we know we have 9.
You have nine in the audience.
Well, I mean, that's the ones that have said
that's the people. Now,
they've said they're coming. But
okay.
we didn't ask them to send a RSVP, but we've had a few people tell us they're coming. But that's always, we're hoping we'll get 100 people. That's what we're shooting for. And we'd love to bring your friends. Please bring your friends. With all those candidates, we've asked all the candidates to bring their friends. So I'm guessing we'll get close to the 100.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Well, I would imagine they'd bring their supporters, wouldn't they?
That's what we've asked them to do. Absolutely,
Yeah. So that should be good.
Yeah.
And Republicans are welcome.
Absolutely. Matter of fact, we'd love to have Republican questions. I don't know if you saw Kamala's discussion today, but she is really reaching out, and once she says she's going to have a committee in the White House basically supporting the Republican agenda. So I like that. I really do. I always have thought we needed to be a lot more over the lines, back and forth.
Bipartisan.
Yeah, bipartisan.
Well, it is very interesting.
You know all the fancy words.
I do. That's why I'm here. But it's a very interesting event. So we wish you all the best on Friday at 6:30 at Dry Rivers. And it's being put on not by the Democratic Party here in Marion. Oh, Mike's got sticky fingers.
Woo.
Golly.
No, it's being put on by Citizens for Democracy. And that's really what our little group has been working on for... Well, they were my support group when I ran for mayor, but we stayed together because we really were frightened that our democracy was being challenged. And we're trying to do everything we can to support the democracy and get other people out to support democracy. I think without democracy, this is not America. And that's what we're supporting.
Now, we're not going to talk a whole lot of politics this week, but we're under 3 weeks to the election. You can't help but say something about it. We're taping this on a Wednesday night, 20 days away from the big day, November the 5th. And I should mention that our election coverage will be live up and running here on WGH Talk, starting at 7 p.m. that night. It'll be the 11th straight year that we've had election coverage live here. We'll have people at the Board of Elections. Well, I think we'll have people at headquarters in Columbus. We'll have people in the studio covering the nationals, covering the locals. It's really going to be something. So tune in, and we'll be here till it's all said and done, as we are each and every year that we have done election coverage. So looking forward to that on November the 5th, starting at 7:15 p.m., 15 minutes before the polls close here in Ohio. What a night it's going to be. This will be our third presidential election that we have covered here on this station, and presidential elections go late. That is a late night, but it's also more fun because everybody wants to know. They want to know how Marion went. They want to know how Ohio went. They want to know how the swing states are going. There's just so much. Everybody's on their phone. It's just a different vibe than just a local or a state election.
Do you think we're going to know that night?
Yeah, people keep saying we're not going to know. Now, I don't believe for a second that okay, I shouldn't say that. If Kamala, it looks like she's going to lose, I believe she will concede that night. Mm-hmm. If Trump, it looks like he's going to lose, I don't believe he will concede that night. So are you going to have that if Trump is on the losing side? No. But I think you will have a projected winner. This is not the COVID years, which was different because there were so many absentee ballots and early voting and all that. That's not going to be the case exactly this year. And I also believe the polls are wrong. I don't believe that the polls are nearly as close as they say they are because they're swinging back and forth too much. That just doesn't make any sense this close because nothing should cause them to swing this tight. So that's basically the wide open question. We're taping this with 20 days left to go. You're probably viewing this with 18 or 19 days left to go. Why is this so tight, Matt?
I think that the people that Trump have behind him are certainly a solid base. I think that they are very, for lack of a better term, I guess, loyal to him. And I think that that people who support Kamala, I think that she has people who are just as adamant in their support of her. But I think that she also has a lot of support from people who just do not like Trump. And a lot of the third-party candidates were. Their poll numbers were dropping when she hopped in the race as well. So she just... I don't know.
So your answer is, I don't know.
Well,
why this is so close.
Nobody does.
See, I was trying to answer it, and then I was like, I didn't have an answer there. Certainly wasn't.
See, I intended that to be a softball question, and it turned out to be a hardball.
Yeah, well, I don't really see any real reason why it should be this close.
You feel it should be what?
I don't know. I figure by now there'd be somebody who would be in more, I guess, in the lead. There's been debates. Two presidential debates, but I guess only one between the two candidates that we have now. There's been vice presidential debates. Both of the conventions are already over. Everything that's going to significantly swing the polls is over. So
what's going to happen? Mike, what do you think? Why is this so close?
That's a good question.
That's why I asked it.
Next.
What's your observation?
Well, a lot of the same things that Matt said. I think that the Trump supporters are very, very loyal. That's a good word, and you're not going to sway them one way or the other. And Kamala, she has a pretty good base of people as well. That's I don't know. I can't answer your question.
I read the other day she reached $1 billion in fundraising. Now that is unbelievable when you think about it, especially in the short time that she's been in this.
Well, there are a lot of people out there that don't want to see Trump get back in.
Yeah, but you know what's interesting about that? Here's a fascinating thing. You both have said Trump's got his loyal people. Trump's got his loyal people, and he does. But I think it's probably about 30%. It's not 48%, which is where he's polling at this particular point. And I think there are people who are not all in on Trump, that are not what you would call Trumpers or MAGAs or whatever they call these people now. They aren't buying the hats or the shirts. They just are not going to vote Democrat. They're not going to vote for a woman. I hate to say that. That's been the elephant in the room. Kamala doesn't bring it up, but it's there. I believe right now, if this were a man, there would be a lead. And that's a horrible thing to say because you wish it wasn't the case, but I think that's true. What do you think, Glenn?
Well, I think you're right. I think
you should say that more often.
You're not my wife. No, I think
not that I know of. Not that I'm aware of.
You wouldn't want to be. No, I agree with you. I think if she were a man, the misogyny would dwindle away, and I think she would have. But I don't know that she would have had as much excitement if she were a man. I think the woman vote really energized her campaign.
I think that it plateaued.
I don't think it has yet. I was about to say that I think Trump has nowhere to go. I think he's hit his ceiling.
48.
And Kamala is still growing ever so slightly, but I think she's still growing because she has room to grow. Pretty much people that were going to vote for Trump before are sticking with him. That's their prerogative, and I think very few people have jumped onto that bandwagon. He has really struggled in the last month to put a good message out, a message that would encourage people to join him.
I think she was a phenomenon when she started. I think she raised a lot of money. I think she got a lot of attention. She got the delegates quicker than anybody thought she would. She's drawing big crowds all over the country. But I think she's hit the head of that, and there are no more things to propel her any further. Now, same can be said for Donald Trump. He's certainly not being propelled anywhere either, and I think that's why we're at this point where now it's a stalemate. I mean, she's got $1 billion.
I do think that the interviews that they've done since the presidential and vice presidential debate, 60 minutes and things like that.
Well, Trump didn't do 60 minutes.
No.
They asked him to, and he wouldn't do it.
He turned it
and
down.
that's a tradition that the candidates do 60 minutes before the election.
So I think that's probably. I think that has the potential to swing more voters her way. I think that not going on there was probably not the best idea for Trump.
Oh, I think he did it because I think he did not want to be seen on the same show with her again, much like the debate.
I think he was afraid of the questions.
Well, he's done it before.
But you know where I stand.
But he's done it before, though. I mean, he did the interview in 2020, and I believe he did it in 2016. So, I mean, he's done it before, and it's always been somewhat of a, train wreck type of an interview when they ask hard questions. He wouldn't even do it this time. And I believe he did not want to be on the same show with her, because last time he was on the same show with her, which was the debate, she got about a 4-point bump out of that. And I think he did not want to do that.
Well, I have listened to him a lot this year because I want to really see what I'm voting against. But I believe that he's sounding like a man who doesn't want to win. He sounds to me like, oh, I already did this. I don't need it. I'll keep doing it because of my pride, but I'm not going to work hard at it. He's not answering questions in a way that would draw people to him. He's not doing 60 Minutes. He's not doing a lot of the things that most of the candidates do.
Well, I think there's just
I think that's age.
I think there's just...
I don't know.
Also, I think that also, isn't he the oldest person who, if he won, he'd be the oldest president to win?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
I think people don't take that into account enough. That I think he's
especially considering that they good and well beat Joe Biden over the head with it for the entirety of the time they were in the race.
He's too much younger than I am.
But I'm not about being president. I mean, this is a rigorous schedule.
I don't think I was, as you know, was running for the mayor of this town, and I was concerned about the hard work and what it would take out of me, even at the mayor of Marion. I can't imagine he'd want to have all that. That's a lot of stuff.
But no, I certainly think he wants the job because I think there's a lot of things he would like to do. I think he does not want to have the possibility to go to prison, which certainly that would take that out of that. And I certainly think he wants the job. I just think this is a 78-year-old man trying to go out. You got to remember, in 2020, they didn't campaign because it was COVID times. There weren't rallies. There weren't debates in the traditional sense. There weren't conventions in the traditional sense. When he was 74 running, he didn't have to do this whole schedule thing. Last time he had to do it, he was 70. So that's a big difference.
Well, going back to my thing, I wanted to be the mayor, but I was scared of the hard work. Not that I wouldn't have done it, I would have, but I worried about it, and my wife worried about it. Excuse me, and now my throat works.
So how was election night? You were here with us, and when you saw the numbers coming in, how'd you feel?
You mean the
mayor?
Oh, a little bit relieved, but also a little bit disappointed. But I also was pretty sure I wasn't going to win, and I was disappointed for Marion because I think I would have been the best candidate. But I also knew that I was concerned about all the heavy lifting I was going to have to do.
Mike, do you think Trump wants to be president?
From what I'm seeing, he does.
Yeah.
I mean, like you said, he has an agenda, and he wants to see his agenda through. Yeah, I think he does want to be.
And don't you think there's a little fear of jail in there? I mean, there's some indictments and
that could be
there's some
too.
sentencing. I mean, I would certainly want the job. What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, I think that he probably wants it. I mean, I think that I don't think that he's working as hard toward it as he could be. Like, he's not doing the interviews and things like that, and I don't think that helps him. I think that's why he's just kind of stuck where he's at. But I mean, I think that I think he's got a lot of things that he wants to do, and I think if he didn't want to do it, he probably wouldn't have run again.
Don't you think, though, that, I mean, and I hate to say it, in 2024, just as we said it in 2016, is being a woman working against her? Are there going to be people, and I'm not saying it's a gigantic percent, but even if it's 5% in an election like this, that's huge, that will not vote for her simply because she's a woman, and we in the United States clearly have a problem with that. We've only had 2 women ever be the candidate of a major party at election time, and Kamala Harris, whether you like her or dislike her, didn't have to go through a primary. Hillary Clinton is the only one who did, and she lost in the Electoral College.
She won, but yes.
Yes, but Glenn likes to get that in every time we talk about that election.
Only 3 million people.
Right, but the woman thing has to matter. It certainly matters to people. I don't think it's a big group, but I think it's enough.
I think the people where it's going to make a difference are in the Republican Party, and they weren't going to vote for her anyway. I don't think too many Democrats anymore are against a woman.
I agree with you on that. I don't.
Oh, I don't think the Democrats are against her. I think the independents are the ones who swing it. Because you have to say, Hillary lost, whether you like it or dislike it. She lost the Electoral College. She didn't win Michigan. She didn't win Arizona. She didn't win Pennsylvania. She didn't win Wisconsin. She didn't win Georgia. Joe Biden did in 2020. And if Kamala only wins a couple of those this time around, what's the reasoning for that? They've all run against the same guy.
I do think that when Hillary Clinton ran against Donald Trump the first time, Donald Trump didn't have a record, and Joe Biden, when he ran against Donald Trump was very disliked at that time, and I think that there was more of a vote against Donald Trump than there was for Joe Biden, so I think that helped him. And now with Kamala, I think that Trump still has a record, and I think that there are more people now than there were in the Joe Biden race who dislike Trump, who now might vote for her just because she is not Trump. But I do think
now what you just said is very interesting. You said there are more people now who dislike Trump than there were when Joe Biden ran against him. Joe Biden at this point was polling far better against Trump in 2020 than Kamala is. So if he's more disliked and more people are voting against him, why are her numbers lower than Joe Biden's were 20 days out?
Got me there.
I think it's.
I do think that she gains more. I do think that she probably, being a woman probably does hurt her, but I think that being a woman helps her more than it hurts. I think that the woman vote is going to come in for Kamala most likely, and probably in the.
But she's got problems with men.
In the large majority, but I don't think it's a large portion of men.
The thing that surprises me is that she's down in the black group, especially the black men. And that does surprise me a little bit. But
and Latino, even more.
Latino
men, she's in big trouble.
Yeah, you would think that they would root for the underdog, but they are not right now.
But she's got a problem with men in general. She's not polling well with men. She's not winning the majority of white men by any stretch of the imagination.
I thought it was pretty close.
Right, but it's not close as I think Joe Biden got much closer to that.
Oh, okay.
He might have won it. I don't remember.
He won it,
but I think he did.
Closer to 60% of white men. Yeah.
Why is that, Mike? Here we are, 248 years in. Over 100 years, women have had the right to vote, and it's still an issue. That's the one issue that still hangs over.
I think it's tradition. I can't think of any.
But
other countries have queens and women.
Well, they've had elected officials, Golda Meir and Margaret Thatcher and people of that nature.
The United States tends to have a gigantic testosterone problem, I believe. our men have always run everything. And I really think it's a testosterone problem. And I think that's an American trait. We're always proud of. We kicked their butts in World War II and World War One. Didn't do so well in Vietnam, but I think
That's why they leave that one out of there.
well, a lot of people do leave that out of the wars. I just happened to be in the service at that time, so I don't. But anyway,
Do you think people dislike her? Is there just a general dislike fact, border czar and these terminologies that come out?
I don't. I don't think a lot of people, definitely not the Democrats, but I don't think there are a lot of people that dislike her. There are just not a lot of people that love
Don't know her enough. That's what I keep hearing. They don't know who she is.
But I think that's BS. I think that's an excuse. I don't know her well enough, so I can't vote for her. That's crap.
Well, what does that mean? What's that code
That's
for?
a good question. I don't know. That's a great question. What is that code for?
I do think that they did a good job of answering the whole who is she question during the Democratic convention, because I actually got I actually heard back from one of my friends who was watching the convention that he was actually getting annoyed, for lack of a better term, by how often he said it basically just it kept going over the same, not necessarily the same facts, but most of it just revolved around who was she. There was not a lot of policy talking. I was like, I think that's what the goal was, because like you said, the biggest thing is that everybody's like, well, we don't know her.
Yeah, that was.
I think they just kind of tried to beat it into your head during the national convention.
One of our first shows that you and I did here. We were talking about people didn't know her, and that was the problem. And now they know her.
Well, she didn't go through a primary. She was a very unknown vice president. She was certainly not one of the better known ones.
There aren't very many good-known, well-known vice presidents, unless they've been scandalized.
Well, I don't know. I think we knew Al Gore pretty well. I think Bill Clinton did a good job of letting people know who he was.
I have a hard time spelling Gore, so no, I don't.
I think. You still learn about. You learn about Al Gore in school.
No, I think that's Al. Listen, Al Gore was. I remember George H.W. Bush attacking him during the campaign, calling him Mr. Ozone. So clearly he had a thing. He had that. He was the environment. He was that. He was the guy who was all about climate change. We knew who Al Gore was. Now, was he known more than Clinton? No, but he's not supposed to be. He's a vice president. And we certainly knew about Pence. We knew a lot about Pence. We knew that he was evangelical. We knew that he was from Indiana. We knew that he had the girls and the kids, and he was okay with Trump, and he softened his edges with certain people in the Bible Belt. And we certainly knew who Joe Biden was, Obama's vice president. He'd been around since Who Flung the Chung. We certainly knew who he was. He ran...
Isn't that racist?
What?
Nothing. Calling him an Asian name.
No, that wasn't Asian. The Chung.
Oh, okay.
I think you misinterpreted
Who
it.
flung the Chung sounds Asian to me.
No, it's not Asian. Anyway, we certainly knew.
I'm calling the FCC when I leave here.
What would you like me to say, Glenn? So it's a long time ago, okay? Joe Biden had been around a while at that point, and we certainly knew Dick Cheney. Dick Cheney had been...
Yes.
A lot of people said Dick Cheney's running the country. They used to say, don't let Dick Cheney die because then Bush will be in charge. So that was... We've known vice presidents. We certainly have known... We certainly knew H.W. Bush for Reagan. He was all wound up in that Iran-Contra and had called Reagan's economic plan voodoo economics and so on and so forth. So I think we've known we certainly knew Spiro Agnew.
After the fact, we know all these people. But before the fact, I don't think I knew much about any of those people you mentioned.
We're going to have to come back and flung the cat, I guess, and talk about other things on the opposite side of this very short but important break. Hey, Scott Spears back with Glenn Coble, Mike Wilson, and Matt Morgan. And I think I've been vindicated during the break there.
Absolutely not.
It is, because I said, who flung the Chung? And Glenn thought that was an Asian term. And Matt looked it up, and it's who flung the chunk. But just who... it's been a long time since somebody threw something. That's all it means.
The only thing I heard flung was spaghetti by Trump against the wall.
Okay, yeah. In any event, we did know those vice presidents, though, because Trump chose Pence to even him out with the evangelicals. And I don't think Trump would have won the first time had there not been Pence. And I do think that Obama took Biden because he has no experience. And Joe Biden had a ton of it. He'd been around since Who Flung the Chunk. And you had Al Gore, who was brought in because Bill Clinton had trouble with a certain group of people. I don't want to get too into that. And H.W. Bush was brought in over Ford because he had called Reagan's plan voodoo economics, and Reagan wanted to show that he could make nice. And we certainly knew about Dan Quayle and all his faux pas under George H.W. Bush. And Cheney was brought in because, again, George W. Bush has no experience, and Cheney needs to be there. So, Mike, don't we know who vice presidents are? I can't say...
After the fact.
No, I think you bring them in before the fact.
Yeah, not always.
Oh, whatever.
Thanks, Mike.
I don't even know who was vice president when I was born.
Who was president?
I think Eisenhower in 1960.
Nixon. You didn't know Nixon?
Yeah. Well, he was... No, I'm talking about president.
Yeah, Nixon would have been vice president to Eisenhower.
Yeah. Okay. So I was right. Eisenhower was president.
Who was Truman's vice president? That would be my first vice president. I don't remember who Truman's vice president.
Truman.
I don't think anybody remembers Truman's
I know.
Now, he's one of those but Nixon was Eisenhower's, right? Yeah. Lyndon Johnson, everybody certainly knew him. He was Kennedy's. Then you have Hubert Humphrey. Now, he was kind of unknown for Lyndon Johnson. Now, Nixon had Spiro Agnew. They knew him. They knew he was a crook.
Only because he was a crook.
Right, but hey, you got to be known for something. And then Ford had Rockefeller, and that was certainly well known.
Mine was Bush and Cheney, wasn't it?
Bush and Cheney.
And Agnew resigned, didn't he?
He did.
Yep.
And Carter had Mondale. That was kind of an unknown one. But Cheney certainly was known. H.W. Bush was known. Gore was known. He'd run for president before. Pence was known. Oh, Lord, Glenn.
I'm so sorry.
No, but I mean, I think vice presidents do matter, doesn't it? Hello. Am I still on? Vice presidents matter, don't they? We know who they are. But I couldn't honestly tell you anything about Kamala Harris prior to this, unveiling.
I mean, I don't have a lot of experience with the whole knowing about vice presidents. I don't know. I mean, they teach you about Al Gore in school, and
they didn't when I was in school.
Well,
that was since Who Flung the Chunk.
And I don't think I don't know that they taught us about Dick Cheney, but I mean, I knew about Dick Cheney.
He couldn't shoot a shotgun to save his soul, but.
So, I mean, like...
He did shoot a guy.
I know.
At the very least, you do after the fact, but I mean, I knew Joe...
Well, when are you supposed to know him? Kamala ran with Joe Biden. I don't think we knew much about her as vice president.
Yes. I did know... I did know a lot about Joe Biden when I...
Of course.
I mean, I was very young, but I know a lot for being very young.
I'm saying Kamala Harris has been vice president of the United States for 4 years. Yep. I think she is one of the least known vice presidents ever. I mean, Gore, do you remember, you say you didn't know Gore. Gore did the big NAFTA debate on CNN with Ross Perot.
What's NAFTA?
Got NAFTA passed, the North American Free Trade Agreement. That had the biggest audience in cable history at that time. What has Kamala Harris, I hate to say this, what has Kamala Harris done in 4 years as vice president that we really knew her for prior to her running for president? We certainly knew Cheney under W. Bush. Again, we certainly knew Gore under Clinton. We certainly knew Biden under Obama. We certainly knew, who am I mixing?
Pence.
We definitely knew Pence. They about hung him.
Now, you may have known all these people because you're very active in it. And I'm not so active
I mean,
in that.
as vice president.
I don't know.
But I didn't know anything about those people you're talking about until
remember,
they became vice president.
Right, that's what I'm. But she's been vice president for 4 years.
Now-
But I know more about her now than I knew about her before she came.
In 2016, when Donald Trump was running with Mike Pence as his running mate, I remember hearing just as much about Mike Pence as I did Donald Trump, though.
Well, he picked him
Really?
to even out the.
I heard just as much about Mike Pence as I did Donald Trump.
I only heard about him because I'm a Hoosier, and unfortunately, he's a Hoosier.
And Dick Cheney after 9/11, that was not even a year into Bush's first term. You certainly knew about Dick Cheney.
Well, that's probably why they teach you. Well, they probably do teach you about Dick Cheney then. Maybe that's why I know the name.
And Biden, you certainly knew Biden in the Obama presidency.
Yeah, I
you
knew
certainly
it.
knew.
Well,
So you do. But she's kind of, in the last 30, 40 years, the most unknown vice president there has been.
Well, you can keep saying that, but she wasn't to me. So,
Mike, what's she to you?
I knew nothing. I didn't even know who the. Okay, this is going to sound
Here we
terrible.
go.
I didn't even know who the vice president was.
Oh, there you are. Ever?
Well, this time.
Oh, this time around.
Kamala, yeah.
Okay. So Mike's on my boat. Mike, Matt, what do you think? I don't remember your name.
That's Matt.
But I don't remember his name, but I remember Al Gore. Go ahead.
What was the question here?
he doesn't know.
Are you paying attention to this show?
Well, I feel like
Do vice presidents has she the least known vice president in the last 30, 40 years?
I thought I answered this question
Are
like
we
3
doing a
times
show?
already. Yes.
My papers have been knocked on the floor.
Say yes.
Who threw the
Get
shot?
it
We don't
through.
know.
I
God
think, yes,
almighty.
I think
I didn't think we were going to turn into the history of vice presidential candidates here on this program.
He's got a bone. He won't quit biting it.
No.
I thought we'd answered this question already.
What's the answer?
No, yes, I think that she's one of the
Three
most
of you
unknown.
say yes, and one of you say no.
I think that she's one of the most unknown vice presidents. I mean, unless you watch the Democratic primary, in
Which I
she-
think is a problem because not only was she one of the least known vice presidents, she was not primaried. She's
That
only
is
been
a
in this
problem.
election
she
for
was in
90
a
days.
primary, but she lost.
But that's 4 years ago.
Yeah, it was 4 years. I mean, she was in a primary.
I'm talking about this year.
Yeah.
This is how you get known.
If you watch the primaries, you
No
do.
comment.
I'm just trying to tell
he's
you.
he's a dog with a bone. That's all I can say.
No. What bone?
No, yes, I
You
think
want
that. I think
that to be true. I don't
What's
think you
true? What's true?
that Kamala wasn't well known, and I don't think you have very much.
I do think that not a lot of people watch the primaries though. I think that if you watch the primaries 4 years ago, you really haven't heard much about her since. Like when she became vice president, you haven't heard much. You didn't hear much about her as vice president.
It's probably because Biden was so good we didn't have a 9/11 or anything else like that that she had to cover for. Oh well, that's just me.
I think the only thing I don't even know. I can't even remember if I knew if I knew that she was in charge of the border as vice president until she became. President.
I guess my question then to
became
you,
the
Glenn,
presidential
the
candidate.
person who believes that she was well known.
No, I didn't say well known. I
Okay.
just said she was known.
She was known. Then why here are we 20 days from the election, and the big thing is nobody knows who this woman is, and that's what her own campaign is saying.
That's what we were just talking about. They didn't know her very as well, and that's what she had to do because she didn't have the time. So she had only maybe 3 months to tell everybody who she was, and that's what you do when you.
But I'm
get thrown
saying,
into that.
let's say, God forbid,
I think
one of these people had died and Pence had to run, or Cheney had to run, or Biden had to run. Would we not have known them better than we knew Kamala Harris?
I think it'd be a flip of a coin, quite frankly.
I agree with you on that.
Yeah,
I would
that's
say
all.
probably.
Next topic.
Are you the moderator of this show all of a sudden? No, that's all I'm saying. But I think that's ultimately her problem in the next 20, 19, 18 days, whenever you're watching this, and that's going to be her thing to turn around, and she's trying to do it. She's going to go on Fox News, I understand. She's going to possibly go on the Joe Rogan podcast.
That'd be great.
So, there you go. The #1 podcast.
Oh, never heard of him.
Oh, you've never heard of Joe Rogan?
No.
But you know Al Gore.
I love Joe Rogan. Well, I don't watch the full episodes, but I love watching
Is
clips.
his podcast bigger than that
Yes.
lady's podcast?
#1 podcast, I think I heard.
Really?
Well, I heard
Joe
that.
Rogan, yeah, the Joe Rogan
What's
Experience.
the woman's name that does a podcast? Huge. She makes $10 million a year on her podcast. I just watched it on TV. I don't remember her name. She's gorgeous. I'd watch her. But she's not on TV. She's on a podcast. Anyway, I thought she was number one, but okay.
But she's trying to get out. She's going to be on Fox News, I think, with Brett Baer.
I think that the only time that they really talked about her personally though was like during the convention, and I think that during the convention only I don't think there's a lot of Republicans watching the convention, the Democratic convention. I don't think there's a lot of Republicans watching the Republican National Convention. But to be fair, I don't think there's a lot of Democrats really watching the Democratic National Convention. Those things aren't that viewed. But
No, you're right.
so I think that the only time that you really got to know her was not very viewed, and I think that like I said, I think that all the interviews that she's been doing are probably going to help her.
She had to make up for lost time because she didn't know she was going to be running for president until last minute.
All right, so back to another question that's burning here.
Burning.
I think another question that's interesting is this burning. Yes, thank you. Is that people will not even tell you who they're going to vote for this time around, and they know there's some kind of shame in the whole thing. And that's very interesting because I'll tell you what, I did not notice that in 2020. I did not notice that in 2016, and we had the same man running. Now all of a sudden, people don't want to tell you who they're going to vote for. Now something has happened, and I believe that's another issue as to why this is so close.
Yeah, I've been wondering that myself.
Yeah, I wonder.
I have no idea.
What is that, Matt?
I think that people are a little crazy about politics.
So you would think if they were crazy about politics, they'd want to tell everybody who they're going to vote for.
You see, but no, when you start telling people who you're going to vote for, then you open yourself up to like arguments, and then it just becomes a whole big waste of time. It's just a lot of work.
Mike?
Yes.
Why? Why? You probably do not want to say who you're going to vote for, but let me ask you.
I won't publicly here. No.
No. Okay. Well, you could do something for us.
I'm still unsure myself.
Really? You're an undecided.
Yes,
I
really
okay.
actually am.
Now, why are you an undecided? Because that's interesting. They always ask these people on MSNBC.
Now I have two questions to answer.
Not really.
And you don't want to answer
What was the first question?
I don't remember, but you asked me something.
Why are you an undecided? With 20 days left to go.
I am because... Oh, are people in Morrow County going to see this?
They see it all over. Now, see, you too are fearful that somebody's going to come and cause a problem.
I can understand that. I wouldn't be. I wouldn't.
I've turned against. Okay.
Oh, here we go.
I'm not. Okay, I'm no longer for Trump, although I'm living in Trump land over there in Morrow County.
Yeah, you are.
I mean, every yard has signs out there. But I'm not sure about Harris yet. I don't know enough.
But you were a Trump voter. Because when you say you turned against...
In the last presidential election, I was.
There you go.
Yes.
There you go.
Yes.
Okay. So, but you're not... So, you've turned against Trump. You're not sure about Harris. So, what if you're not sure about Harris on Election Day?
I guess I'll cross that bridge when I get to it.
I bet there
You
are
got third parties. There are third party options. Had to throw that out there.
I bet there are a lot of people that walk into the booth that don't know as they walk in. They just they get a gut feeling as they walk in. Okay, he's the lesser of the two evils.
Yeah, but here's what I don't... Okay, you and Matt have a similar philosophy here in different places. Now, this is Matt's first presidential election he's voted in. Now, this is very strange because you both are technically saying the same thing in different ways. You're saying, under no circumstances are you going to vote for Trump. You've turned him against him. Matt has said from the beginning, I will not vote for Trump. It's not an option. I'm not going to do it. But then I say, well, who are you going to vote for? I mean... It kind of, basically, we know who you're going to vote for. If you're telling me it's no Trump, then you are telling... I mean, you could say you're going to vote for Chase Oliver. Jill Stein, we don't even know if her votes are going to be counted in Ohio at this point. There's a whole mess going on there. So if you vote for Green Lady, I don't know what's going to happen there. But you know it ain't going to be Chase Oliver. I've had him right here. Thank you very much.
I've never even heard of him.
Well, we know you aren't voting for him. So basically, you both are saying, and I hate to infer something, you both are saying, basically, anybody who watches this, the inference is, I'm voting for Harris, but I'm not going to say it out loud.
Or the inference is they're not going to vote
I don't think that's going to happen.
Unfortunately, in some cases, that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't.
I'd
think
vote
that.
third party.
I'm pretty sure of that.
You think people will go?
Yes.
Mike, you'll vote.
For everything else, I mean...
Oh, you think you'll leave it blank?
I know our local people over there.
But now leaving it blank.
But leaving
what
it
does that
blank does
accomplish?
nothing.
Exactly.
I agree with you.
There you go.
But I don't know what to do.
But you say you're not voting for
Maybe
Trump.
I should come to Glenn's
Sure,
little rally
please do.
there.
We'd love to have you.
yeah, Friday night at 6:30.
And you may find out you hate him. Or you may find out you love him. That's all we want to do. It's not called
But what
Democrat night.
what I liked was the way that you're so open. I know you're Democrat. Yeah. You're so open to the
You
other.
are? I did
the
not
other
know
parties
that.
Tell him.
And you want them
You know
to work.
what?
You
Wow.
want them to
I
work
think you
together.
are.
I do.
Rather than grinding against each other.
What good does that do
And I
us?
agree with you 100% on that.
Doesn't do us any good. We are friends. You and I are friends.
Yeah.
And we vote on the opposite side of the aisle, and there's nothing wrong with that. Right. You have a different philosophy of the way you think government
And I
should
think
be run.
both
That's
parties want to get the same things accomplished.
I think so.
They just have different ways of doing it.
I agree.
Okay, but here's what I want to say at this table. Now, we have a Harris, all in. We have a no Trump, but I'm not going to say.
All out.
I don't know what that means. We have a used to be Trump, but not this time. But so I don't believe that either one of you are going to leave it blank. And I'm not trying to yank it out of you here, but I mean, no. It's interesting because most people would say, like, I'm not going to tell you who I'm going to vote for, but I would not tell you that there is one candidate that I will not vote for because that would infer that I'm going to vote for the other candidate, if nothing else.
But I've also on multiple other occasions defended the
Right,
the
so
running
basically
of,
you're saying you're Harris, you just don't want to say it.
No. I've also defended
So
the
you're
running.
Chase Oliver.
No, I've also defended the running of third-party candidates, and so yeah, I would vote for third parties.
But they don't get enough support to really...
So I got
There you
3
go.
options here: Kamala, Chase Oliver, and Jill Stein.
Jill Stein might not even work out in Ohio.
Well, I guess maybe Jill Stein won't be one of the 3 options then. But I got 2.
Now you're down to 2.
The old expression that a vote for a third party is a non-vote holds true.
Sure.
Yeah, but a non-vote is a non-vote.
Yeah.
Vote
And
for
I'm
third parties
troubled
or
with that too, because I know people that are saying the same thing. I'm not going to vote for either one. I don't think either one's a suitable candidate, and that troubles me.
Yes.
And what troubles me more is that I have some of that kind of thinking in my head.
If I were in that situation, I'm not, but I would pick out the one, and I don't care which one you pick, that has 2 or 3 things that I do like.
Sure.
And that would be the person I'd vote
We've talked about Dick Cheney here. Liz Cheney has said, I don't agree with Kamala Harris on
she has.
anything. I don't agree with any policy she has.
She has changed that, though, recently. But go ahead.
And well, her father, Dick Cheney, has said it too. I don't agree with her on anything, and there is no other circumstance in life where I would ever vote for her. But this guy is dangerous, is what Dick Cheney has said. Dick Cheney, who we all thought was danger himself during the Bush years. Dick Cheney has said,
Especially if he had a gun.
yeah, right. But this man has said, I don't agree with her. I'm not becoming a Democrat. There is no other circumstance in life that I would ever campaign for her, but I cannot throw my vote away in an election that is this important. That's what the Cheney say.
I think that's one of the good things that Kamala is doing, is she's saying, I understand, you will never vote for me again, but this time it's a different thing. It's like my organization, Citizens for Democracy, and I think that's what people are voting for.
Right,
now.
but what about third-party candidates and leaving it blank? Liz Cheney and Dick Cheney aren't saying they're going to do that, and there are calls right now. There are calls right now on the only other living Republican president, George W. Bush, saying, George, you need to support Kamala, because we know he doesn't support Trump, but he's just being quiet about the whole thing.
And I think he's smart to be quiet about it.
Probably.
He has a legacy to maintain within the Republican framework of things, and I wouldn't.
But
If I were him, I wouldn't do it either.
Do you think the party of Trump really reveres George W. Bush at this
No,
point?
I
Okay,
don't
so
think
what
they
legacy does he got to...
They don't revere anybody.
Yeah, but what legacy does he have to... He's Mitt Romney at this point. What legacy... He's John McCain. What legacy does George W. Bush have to preserve in the Republican Party of 2024?
All those 3 people that you mentioned all do have a legacy, period. Whether
Yeah, but-
you know it or not.
But
they
you
have
think
one.
you think that Mitt Romney's voting for Trump?
The only legacy
I don't
that
know.
the only thing I know about
You think
Mitt
Dick
Romney
Cheney
is
has
he
blown
lost.
his legacy by saying he's voting for Kamala?
No.
Then
Because
why
I-
would W. Bush be blowing his?
It's a matter of thought. He might think that all my friends are Republicans, and I know too many of them that are going to vote for Trump. I got to leave this alone.
But what do you think he'll
have
do on election day?
We don't have a whole heck of a lot of bravery within politics. So.
Oh, well, okay.
Back to the question you originally asked
There you
me.
go.
Circle the line.
Why are people afraid to say
Yes.
who they're going to vote for?
Yeah. Oh, you remembered it.
Because, yes, I did. It took a while, but
You didn't remember it at the beginning, but it's back.
there's such a, I'm strongly here or I'm strongly here, and if you say where you are, there's going to be friction and they're going to argue. And Matt said a similar thing too.
Probably in your own head as well.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm telling you
sometimes.
what. If I'm watching this show, I hate to tell you, it's one of those "Do you still beat your wife?" questions. You can say you do.
I'm not talking. she beats me.
I was gonna ask that.
Two flung the chunk. I am telling you that if it's like when somebody's on television and they're asked a hard question and they say, "I don't want to comment on that." Did you steal money from Bob Jones? And no comment.
How'd you know about that?
In your mind, what are you thinking? Oh, of course you did. Or else you'd say,
Yes.
"No, I'm not." And when somebody hears, "I will not vote for Trump I was a Trump voter, but I'm not this time. But I'm not going to tell you who." We know. And I mean, now, whether you truly know or not, I mean, you can slip that in the file 11 if you want, but that's what people are thinking. You know that, Mike.
Sure.
Yeah. You know that.
Much
I got
like
3 candidates.
You don't have 3 candidates. Jill Stein, I think, is she filed her paperwork wrong or something.
Well, it's kind of like the answer JD gave about did Trump really win the election of 20?
And I've had Chase
he
Sullivan
said,
here.
"Oh, we're not talking about
Yeah, I know.
times gone by. When you don't answer a question,
We think you did.
you
Sure.
automatically think
Exactly.
you're lying.
So I guarantee you, people know where Glenn sits. People are saying Matt's going to vote for Harris. People are saying Mike's going to vote for Harris. And that's okay. Now, is that the truth? We don't know. Because you guys aren't coming off of it.
I didn't hear
But
either
the-
one of them say that. but-
No, I said thinking. Didn't I say
Oh,
thinking?
okay.
But that's what the audience is thinking.
Well, they can think that, I guess. I got 3 candidates. Maybe 2. Jill Stein may or may not be on the ballot.
Apparently you didn't hear about Jill Stein. What appealed to you about Chase Oliver when he was here? Sat with me for an hour. You were right here when I interviewed him in the studio.
I
By the way,
know.
the White House goes right through here. Chase Oliver sat right here.
The man himself?
Yeah, the man. When he was here.
Yeah, I
Weren't
know.
you
I
here for
was.
that?
Yeah, I was here. But,
You were right there, weren't you?
Yeah, but
He was here. You were
you
there. I
impressed?
was here.
no. What?
Were you impressed by his answers to what's his name?
So
Sorry, Scott.
They got a big rating, Glenn. If you had him at the shindig on Friday, there'd be 700 people at that thing.
I mean, I guess I wasn't really impressed by anything he said per se, but I like a lot of the. It's more about the party, I guess, for the libertarians. Like I do like a lot of the libertarian.
But do you think he
stances
can
on things.
win?
No, but I think if I vote libertarian, I can either build up the Libertarian Party, which may or may not happen, or
By one
2.
vote.
You
Come
see,
on.
but the Libertarian Party votes like
They only have 3, so one would.
That's right.
the number.
No, wait a second.
The number
So,
of
but no,
registered
wait,
voters
wait,
for
wait.
the Libertarian Party goes up every year. The
What?
Libertarian Party is the fastest growth. I think that there are less people who register. Like the number for Democrats and Republicans are falling every year. Libertarians are going up.
Not this time. I think Gary Johnson got more in 2016 than Chase Oliver will
Not
get.
votes, like people registered as libertarians.
Okay. In any event, why do you always start off by saying no Trump?
You don't like him.
Yeah, I don't like Trump.
Okay. Mike, why do you start out now by saying, I definitely know Trump, I've changed?
Well, I don't think he's a very honest. Well, of course, he's a politician.
Hey, I was a politician.
There are exceptions. I think he's very sneaky about the way he does things. I think he's been caught in the act of doing some things he shouldn't have been doing. My thinking is the person that's president should be somebody, if you have kids, you can look at your kids and say, hey, I'd like you to grow up to be like that person.
Yeah.
Okay, that being said, why not Kamala to be fair here, to balance it out?
Like I said earlier, I don't know enough about her. I need to do some more studying, so I really can't say yes or no.
So why won't you say Kamala?
A lot of tax breaks, a lot of, you know, there's the whole banning on assault weapons and different kinds of accessories.
He wouldn't vote for me either.
There's, oh, you know, maybe. There's,
The big M.
there's more. I just can't think of it off the top of my head. Like, I don't know. But, like, I mean, there's, like, I'd have to watch the.
I guess what would confuse me if
I don't like about
if I was against one candidate, and I know it's a binary choice, and it is, one of these two are going to be president. That's the truth. You know, so you can call it a protest vote, you can call it a third party vote, you can call it a no vote, not voting, voting for third party, or not showing up at all that day to vote for anything. You are contributing to the problem if you really dislike one of the candidates. That's period.
It is a vote by not voting. It's saying you don't want to vote for anybody. Don't you think?
No, because there are many things on the ballot down ticket, and as I said before,
yeah.
if you're so adamantly against one person, regardless of how you feel about the other, even if you're vanilla pudding about the other one, you certainly must feel that that's better than the opposite, or why else are you saying, I would never vote for that person? I think that's where the Cheneys are. They're saying, listen, she's vanilla pudding to me, and I would never vote for her under any circumstance except this, but I just don't like that guy. I don't trust him.
And just because they are not going to vote for Trump, they may vote for Harris, but vote for all the other Republicans down the line.
Well, right,
Yeah.
and that's fine. But I'm saying if you don't vote, if you vote third party, you could possibly be contributing to a Trump presidency. You certainly aren't hurting it.
That's true.
But by the same logic, I could certainly be supporting, I guess, a Kamala Harris presidency.
Well, right. But I haven't heard you say, I'm all out on Kamala. That would be voting against a Kamala Harris presidency. That's what I don't understand. If I'm all out on one candidate, and I know it's a binary choice, one of these two people is going to be the president.
There's more than two choices to vote for.
No, there's two people who are going to be president. Period.
One of the two.
Yeah.
But
so,
he's saying he can vote for nobody.
Right.
All right. It's not going to win.
I think I just went through this, but I'm saying that if you vote third party, if you leave that position blank, if you don't show up and vote at all, you are essentially helping. You're certainly not hurting the chances of the person you don't want to win from winning. You are hurting the chances from the vanilla pudding person who you won't go in on from winning by not voting for them.
But you're hurting both of them. Both, in his case, if he votes for what's her name, Stein, then he will not be voting for Kamala, and he will not be voting for Harris.
But do you want to hurt Kamala? It doesn't sound like that's the plan. That's what I don't understand. It says, I do not want Trump.
I don't think he wants to hurt anybody.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm not...
Well, you say you don't want Trump.
The goal is not to hurt either.
Do you not want Kamala?
I would rather the Libertarians win, they're quite honest. I do like...
Well, it ain't going to happen.
I like
so
the
the point
Libertarian
is...
parties.
I would vote Libertarian if I were
well,
you.
okay. Hope in one hand and do something in the other.
You're throwing your vote away, I think.
There you go.
But
Mike, we're down to two here.
Your heart is right.
What do you think?
What's the question?
Does voting... oh, God, with just 2 minutes, and Glenn's still got to plug his event. Do you think that a non-vote or no vote or voting for the opposite person who you really don't want is a vote to help them win?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
I think it's a waste. Okay. I think it's a waste of time to not vote.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
I'm voting.
But don't you think it helps the person who you don't want to win by not voting for the other person?
Yes.
I agree with that. Thank you. Glenn, plug your event with a minute to go.
We got 1 minute to go, and if you come out Friday night to Tri-Rivers Career Center at 6:30, free of charge, come on out and meet all the Democratic candidates that are going to be out there free of charge, and you can ask them all these questions straight to their face.
Tri-Rivers, multi-purpose room, Friday night, 6:30 p.m. Going to be a lot of fun.
Free admission.
And we have another episode this week with these guys, which you'll have to catch here on YouTube, and it's going to be flowery topics. Scott Spears heading for the dugout.